Hello, welcome to PODnas. This is a sports show with a Cajun flair. I'm Daniel Hawks. That's Jared Roser. And today we are going to go over the LSU OU game. I'll also do our PODnas Pick 7, pick the plays of the week. But first, let's talk about a disappointing night for Tulane on Thanksgiving evening. We're recording this Friday midday. So, Tulane loses to Memphis, pretty much snuffs out any chance that they are going to have at getting into the playoff. Memphis team that does have a very good offense just kind of showed that, and Tulane was able to score on them, but was not able to, really keep with them, is what it kind of felt like the entire game. Jarrett, you were at that game. What did it feel like?
It was a struggle all night. It felt kind of a weird night from the beginning, and it's just, I mean, how many times have we talked about over the course of this season? I feel like it's been kind of a recurring theme of the challenges to be consistent as a college football team at this point, even compared to years past. It's always been a challenge, and I think it's more and more challenging in the modern era of college football. And it was a bad night for Tulane to not be what we have seen them be in terms of playing up to their standard for months now. And so they had a rough night, shot themselves in the foot in a variety of ways, just didn't execute in a variety of ways, while Memphis comes into town and is certainly a capable football team and played really well. And so you saw a Memphis team that had time to pass most of the night, was up completing 80% of its passes for a lot of the night until kind of late on. A team that had two running backs that were breaking tackles for big runs, receivers that were consistently open. And then Tulane was sitting there at 10 points for a lot of this game, which is, well shy of what they're typically doing on offense. Just, missed on some throws, had some drop balls, couldn't establish the run game. Mekhi Hughes was held in check in a way that no one else really had. And then your two biggest plays of the game for Tulane, a 40-yard strike in the third quarter, 55-yard strike in the fourth, both end up fumbled away by the receivers. And so instead of your most explosive plays of the game potentially helping you overcome a rough night in which you still only lose by 10, those two plays down into the red zone instead become turnovers that go right back to Memphis. And so that's just, as much as was going poorly, you still had those chances, but then those chances became roller coasters of emotion that went the wrong way each time. And so it just not a lot of positives to take from them other than, again, post game, their attitude, mentality, all of those things, feeling like everything is still in front of them in terms of winning the conference, et cetera, et cetera. But on the field, it was rough.
So they're going to play their conference championship game, right?
Yeah, so they're still in the conference championship. They'd already secured a spot there. They and Army were set to face, and now it's just a matter of if they still potentially can land that game in New Orleans, but looks more likely it's going to end up in New York. And so you go from likely hosting a conference championship game, giving yourself a really strong, puncher's chance at staying alive in the college football playoff conversation, to now looking like you're probably going to have to travel for that conference championship and certainly the playoffs now out of the picture. And so a lot went really poorly in terms of the big picture on Thursday night, but they expressed that their goals were to win the conference, and then wherever they ended up in postseason play, that it was out of their control what that landing spot would be, but to go win a postseason bowl game of some sort. And so their goals are still in front of them. Unfortunately, the cap on that postseason opportunity is obviously, a lot lower now.
Next up, we are going to talk about the LSU OU game. It is going to be the first time that LSU and Oklahoma are going to play each other in the regular season finale. They've obviously played each other in some post game. I think this is this
national championship and national semifinal situations.
Is this what Alabama fans feel like when LSU fans talk about them? They're like, yeah, cool, whatever. Because we just beat up on Oklahoma so much.
so much. The two times that
3, 2. It's only been 2.
You had me start Zach Galifianakis like memory.
I did, yeah, I tried. But Oklahoma's coming off a big win. LSU in its own right is coming off of a big win. I mean, after stopping that losing streak, I do consider that Vandy win very much needed for the program at this point in time. Sooners are coming into Baton Rouge. what do you expect from this game? How do you expect the vibes to be? And also, I know there are a couple other little tidbits that we're going to hit on here.
I think when you watch the way that LSU came out against Vanderbilt, and in terms of how they played that whole game, because obviously the start of that game was a little bit shaky, and so you don't want to start that way, but they showed up prepared and showed some leadership and some fight to shake their way out of everything that had been happening over the last few weeks and to really control the bulk of that game. And I think that's a lot of reason to be encouraged that they're not going to do that and then just let this one fall by the wayside, that they'll come out on senior night and have a similar sort of energy and mentality to them to go out on a bang, particularly for those veterans on that team, and to leave a good taste in their mouth and to play well at home in front of the home crowd for the last time this season and all those things. And if they do that, if they play similarly to what they did a week ago, or really to what they did a lot of this season, I think that they match up well against an Oklahoma team that has really struggled offensively. In 7 conference games, they've hit the 20-point mark 3 times,
Yeah.
and each of those has taken a defensive touchdown just to get to 20. I think that this LSU team, if they can protect Garrett Nussmeier the way they have the vast majority of the season, and then if you get a nice little boost on the ground with some level of balance like you got from Josh Williams a week ago, anything really in that area of the game, that this is an LSU team that's shown it can get to the 20s and 30s with a lot of regularity.
Yeah.
And so on the flip side, Oklahoma obviously not scoring a ton. I think LSU's defense has shown enough through this season to have confidence they'll kind of finish this season strong too. Obviously, there have been some missteps along the way, but I don't think that this Oklahoma team is going to be able to score with LSU if LSU can score to what it typically does. And I like LSU to pull out a win.
Yeah, I'm going to go with LSU as well. Just kind of the same things you said. I just think the offensive firepower in LSU is just a little bit more than what Oklahoma can muster. And the one thing I will say is, if Oklahoma can, I know they love to run the ball a lot. So if they can keep control of the kind of game tempo and pace and speed, then that would go in their favor. But I think with it being in Tiger Stadium and not being in Norman, I'm going to give the edge here to the LSU team and the LSU seniors. But let's talk about real quick what's going on with these uniforms. Isn't there a
Yeah.
kerfuffle about the uniforms? What's going on with that?
So they're wearing some purple tops this weekend. It's another alt look compared to the traditional LSU unis that everyone loves and kind of view, certainly the LSU fan base views as, if not the best uniforms in college football, then one of the best. And so there's definitely some folks that are a little bit up in arms to see LSU, now back-to-back games having these alt looks with the golds last week, and just want to see those traditional home white unis. And it's been funny to watch play out. I guess there's some old man yelling at cloud vibes happening in the Twitter sphere at the moment. And at the end of the day, it's a uni set that it sounds like the seniors were given the option to pick what they want to wear on senior night and
Yeah.
went with it. And so rock and roll, do your thing.
Okay, cool. That's what I thought it was. Like we're like LSU is one of the only teams that always wears white. And sometimes it's nice to switch it up.
Yeah.
I'm okay with seeing that.
I think there's certainly, a fine line between wanting to hang on to some traditions for the most part, but also having some flexibility to showcase some different things. And to me, the ender of this conversation is the dynamic of the seniors apparently
Yeah.
being given the option. And so with all due respect to the traditions, and hopefully we see those carry the day most Saturdays in terms of what you're wearing. I think letting the seniors pick on senior night makes an awful lot of sense to me.
Yeah. I'm fine with it. And if you're an old man yelling at the cloud at this, then stop. That's not going to change. That doesn't mean anything. So your thoughts mean nothing.
I love good looking uniforms. Don't get me wrong, but I don't understand the outrage that people have over uniforms relatively consistently on social media. I don't care that much.
No, never, ever, ever, ever. So that's just how I feel about it. So, also, we had kind of talked about this off air. It's weird playing Oklahoma for the end game, for the last game of the regular season. You mentioned this, and I think I agree with you. I would like to go back to Arkansas as the, and even we have a name for it. I love this week in college football, all of the rivalries and all the battle for, we're going to get into this game later, South Carolina and Clemson. It's like battle for South Carolina, like that, stuff like that. Dang it. I think that we should implore whoever is in charge in any way that we can to bring that back, bring back an actual rivalry game. I understand them trying to make a new rivalry and make something new, and maybe a couple years down the line that probably, maybe more so than Arkansas, this LSU Oklahoma game could probably have a lot more to say about what happens in the SEC than normal. But it still just feels like they're trying to force a rivalry between the two schools.
I felt like they were trying to force the LSU A&M rivalry when A&M came into the league, but at least those were neighboring states and programs that recruited heavily against one another, particularly in that Houston area. And it really wasn't much of a rivalry for the first several seasons that A&M was in the league until the 7 overtime game kind of changed things. And now there's a little bit more heat to that. But Texas and Oklahoma coming in, it makes an awful lot of sense, obviously, to put the Aggies and Longhorns on quote unquote rivalry week to end the season. Oklahoma and LSU make no sense at all.
No.
It's something that, I mean, we talked about a second ago. They don't have a lot of history. It feels like, to your point, something that's forced. Meanwhile, you have Arkansas and Missouri, that Arkansas and LSU and Missouri and Oklahoma both make a world more sense in terms of some level of established background. And so, as much as we just talked with the uniforms about people liking tradition and the history behind things, rather than forcing this LSU Oklahoma situation to happen and prioritizing a Missouri Arkansas situation over the Arkansas LSU and Missouri Oklahoma just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I don't know how they're going to do the scheduling moving forward. Obviously, we're in kind of a transitional time in the SEC while they're sorting some things out. And so maybe this is just a temporary dynamic anyway, but it just makes all the sense in the world to me to go back to LSU and Arkansas on Thanksgiving weekend now that Texas and Texas A&M is back on the table.
Absolutely. And there are some great rivalry games this week. So I think we both picked LSU for that first one. I think it's time to get into the PODnas pick 7. Let's move on. Next game that we're going to be going over is going to be the University of Louisiana Cajuns at ULM, Saturday, 11 a.m. on ESPNU. ULM had a great start to the season. They've really fallen off. Cajuns had a little falter a couple weeks ago, but Jarrett's not going to be at this game, so I'm going to pick the Cajuns.
Yeah, I think the Cajuns have certainly proven they're the more balanced and more consistent team. And as much as the folks in Northeast Louisiana would love to spoil some of that to end the regular season and get themselves up to back up to 500 on the season and put themselves in bowl position, it feels like, it would be a surprise for the Cajuns to not go up there and pull out a win the way that Chandler Fields has stepped in and taken the reins of that offense and just looking like they haven't really missed a whole lot of a beat since Ben Woldridge's injury. Yeah, got to like the Cajuns on the road.
All right. Both going Cajuns there. Next up, we're going to do the Bayou Classic, Grambling Southern in New Orleans, Saturday at 1 p.m. It's always a good time down there. Man, I don't want to do it, but I'm going to pick Grambling to win.
Are you picking that because you feel like I will probably take Southern as the team that's had the stronger season overall, and so you need to give yourself that that
No,
opportunity?
I just have a gut feeling, which is no. I have a gut feeling that you're going to choose Grambling, so I'm going to go with what you're choosing, and maybe force you to pick the other thing.
I didn't know if you'd maybe had drinks with my attorney, Joey Brooks, up there, and caught wind of the Joey Brooks and Calvin Harris Grambling versus Southern feud in our group
No,
text.
no, no, no. I did not. I did not.
I'm gonna go with Calvin this time around and go with Southern to get the win, and so that will open the door for you to potentially gain a spot on me in our pick 'em. I think the Jags have been more consistent over the course of the season, and similarly to me taking the Cajuns over the Warhawks, I'll bet on that at this point. But honestly, in this one, you really never know because
Yeah.
each side has played spoiler to the other plenty of times through the years, and so Grambling would certainly love to do that to the Jags.
All right. Next up, we have Kennesaw State is at Louisiana Tech. This is a barn burner. Saturday, 3 p.m. ESPN Plus. Both these teams have really struggled this year just to get anything going. Louisiana Tech has had a couple of games where it looks like they had control of it and they've let it slip away. But Kennesaw State has looked more hapless, I think, throughout the entire season. That being said, I'm going to go with Kennesaw State here.
Having said that, I was happy to include this game in the picks because I feel like I've picked against Louisiana Tech so consistently, and I'm going to go with the Bulldogs and Coach Cumbie and company to shake back and finish the regular season strong. Just get some sort of positive note to go out there and wrap things up in the Joe for the season.
All right, all right. We got two splits here. Uh-oh, I'm coming. Next up, number 2, Texas. I believe they're still number 2, right? Number 3 after Ohio State, actually. Number 3, Texas at Texas A&M. Saturday, 6:30 game on ABC. This one is going to be such a good matchup. I love that it's actually in Texas A&M. I think this is going to bring a lot more fire to it. I do think that Texas is just the better team and is destined to be in the SEC championship game versus Georgia. The winner of this game does go to the SEC championship game. So there's a whole hell of a lot on the line, especially for Texas A&M, who, if they lose this game, could be looking out definitely of the playoff picture with 4 losses. So, yeah, I'm going to go with Ewers. I can't bet it right now. The way that we're looking at this, with them being in my playoff bracket, I can't go against that. I got to go with Texas,
I am also leaning Texas. Obviously, we saw from an LSU perspective firsthand or saw closely that it's tough to go in there and get a win this season. I just don't see Texas A&M with the way that they've played in some of these recent games matching up great against this Texas team that I do continue to think is one of the elite programs in the country this year.
All right. All right. Both got Texas there. Next up, we've got number 15, South Carolina at number 12, Clemson. Saturday, 11 a.m., ESPN. Listen, I called that Clemson was a fraud at the beginning of the year. And again, just like the Texas A&M pick, I can't back off that now. And I need that to be true because I'm not going to win in the pick'ems. So South Carolina, we've talked about this team, I feel like, so many times this year. That defense is just so good. And also their skill players are really, really good. With Rocket Sanders, with Nick Arbor. And I think the boost that Sellers has given them has been pretty obvious. I mean, they were unranked before that, and then when he kind of took control, they've gotten midway up the rankings, like right on the outside of what this playoff picture is going to look like. So I also love that South Carolina could spoil Clemson's playoff hopes. I think that would be great. That's what I'm rooting for. That's what I'm going to pick.
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I mean, this is right on that bubble of playoff contention for these two teams, and I'm just going to lean with the SEC and some of the disruption that we've seen South Carolina bring to the field most Saturdays this year to get after Clemson and kind of spoil their season to end it all.
All right.
They're, at least in terms of playoff, they'll still go play in a bowl somewhere and whatnot, but it won't matter quite the same. So it'll be nice.
Exactly. Next up, we've got Rams at the Saints. Saints coming off a bye. I want to pick the Saints so bad. The Rams have just been very inconsistent, but they also, the Saints went on a 7-game losing streak, so everything's on the table. Rams, I feel like, have been just so up and down, and it kind of depends on if they give Stafford time. And I think one of the things about this Saints defense that they still are able to do is kind of get some pressure to the quarterback without losing too much in their coverage with Cam Jordan, with that D-line. So I'm going to go and I'm going to pick the Saints this weekend. I think there's a lot of Alvin Kamara that happens. I think the Saints control the clock, and I think they are disruptive enough to Matthew Stafford to kind of get him off his game. And when you get him throwing under pressure, it's a lot different than when he has time to throw. So I'm gonna pick the Saints to do that and come away with a W, maybe.
We spent the bulk of November talking about Merry Christmas, and so I don't see why, when the calendar turns to December on Sunday, that we'd go any other way until proven otherwise. He's, again, the only undefeated coach in the NFL this season, I believe, and so why are we betting against a 1,000% winner over there in Denver?
Hey, well, if everything goes to plan this weekend for me, it's going to be 56 and 33, and you're going to be at a measly like 69 and 25. So,
well, then if that's where I'm going to land, then I hope that it does go perfectly well, and I'll take my 69 wins into the postseason.
Yeah, I think that'll be great. We will update you on that next week, how we're looking on that. And finally, before we get out of here, we are going to announce the winner of the high school play of the week. Oh, fanfare. Yeah. Applause. Whoa.
Confetti, doubloons.
Oh, yes. It is going to be JT Lindsay hitting the quotation.
He's doing.
Yeah, I listen, me either. Congratulations. He is a multiple-time winner of the high school play of the week. How many more weeks left do we have of high school football?
So this weekend is the quarters, so we're down to the last 3 weeks of high school football season.
Okay, so last 3 weeks of the high school play of the week. If you see anything, say something, send it to us. We want to see these amazing plays that are going to happen in the playoffs, with it being the quarterfinals, with the teams in there are a little bit cut above than just everyone. We want to see what kind of plays they're making. Please send that over to us. You can pitch it over to us at PODnas_LA on Instagram, or you can do LA versus all y'all on Instagram and on Twitter. Also check out the YouTube page. Jared has got a bunch of stuff for Louisiana versus all y'all up there. You can even watch full PODnas episodes if you want. Like, share, comment on this video. We'd love to hear from you. And if you stuck around this long, thank you so much. I hope you had a great Thanksgiving, and I hope you have an even better holiday season. Let's go Tigers. Anything else? You got anything?
No, that's it. Just looking forward to this Thanksgiving weekend of football and everything else ahead.
Well,
as you mentioned.
Let's get out of here, though. Let's go grab a cup of Joe. All right? PODnas out.
And it's a ticket talking margin for the biggest. That's a comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it. I've been comma and a comma and a comma. Gotta get it, get it, get it, get it. Comma and a comma.